Hello humans and other species, I'm Batsy, and welcome to Skull Island. Name given to it because there is a skull, and the fact that it's an island. Yeah, that's literally it. A few people suggested that name. I thought the pun would be so painful that I had to do it. Sorry about your brain cells. A collaborative series where I build your suggestions and ideas, with the goal of working together to achieve the coolest base ever. In the last episode, we made a really cool fishing boat to serve as our starting base, storage for the island, and of course, as a fishing farm too. I also worked between episodes to finish terraforming the last section of the island. I used the same texturing as before, with the dirt paths and the stripped oak logs for the slope, leaving it as an empty canvas so it's ready for future projects. And just like last time, I also went for the pointy rocks at the side of the slope. I think they look really nice between the leaves. For today's episode, and as voted by you all, we will be building some sort of quarry or mine entrance. We need to have at least a cobble generator, and if we have the time for it, I would love to connect it to the nether to farm some netherite. So let's get started. But where exactly should we get started? I guess the entrance, obviously. Can't do anything else until we have that part done. What I'm thinking is that we can probably fit quite a lot inside this island. I don't want to be building too many farms or anything. But what I mean is that if we place most things underground, the entrance just needs to be something simple, right? What immediately comes to my mind is the clay pit from the old Pharaoh game. I'm gonna try to add some reference pictures, but that game is quite old. There was also the Emperor game. They both had those kind of small quarries that also have a small entrance to a mine or something like that. While I was Googling, I remembered that some of the Anno games also have clay pits. And I honestly think that it kind of fits the vibe. It looks sort of like a quarry, but it's a lot smaller. I believe this is going to fit in the island a whole lot better. Alrighty, we have a plan. Let's get to building, shall we?
Take my hand and I'll be your guide. I'll take you places that you'd never find. I know something about a state of mind. I've got the dreamer in me. Roses bloom and the sun will shine. Leave your troubles in the world behind. Stars shine brighter when you free your mind. I've got the dreamer in me. And when we reach the destination, you will see the world is waiting for the ones who hold the key. Just look inside, unlock the possibility. The dreamer lives in you and me.
I'm liking where this is going. I'm liking it a lot. So obviously, you can notice that I changed the floor. I liked it more with mud, but it had close to no contrast and it was blending too much with the spruce wood. Instead, I think stone and tuff look really nice in here. It gives a good contrast with the rest. And because stone texture tend to be more bland, it will be easier to add details on top of it, which is what I was planning on doing next. Adding all of the details like Minecraft's, supplies, and moving parts. I decided to stop for a second so the transition between the time-lapse and me showing the final product isn't too extreme. But anyway, so far it's looking good. Now what? Well, I made the entrance to the mines. We need to dig in there to place the cobble generator. I'm not too sure what else are we going to do inside. My plan is to just have a decently empty cave in case we want to expand to also produce andesite and other things. Which, to be fair, andesite we do need. We are using andesite for create and the copycats a whole lot. So that's for the mines. A cool looking hole with enough room for a few vaults and stuff. Now, what about the rest? Well, I'm actually not too sure. Obviously, I know I want to add some details around. I want to add maybe some mine carts that move around or belts from create. I think belts with moving ores and stones in them could look super cool. Now, what's the caveat? Well, there is not a whole lot of space to do stuff, to be honest. I mean, yes, there is enough room to squeeze supplies and details. But if we take a look from far away, it's quite cramped already, don't you think? I don't want it to look too busy, but I do want to add moving parts, so we are kind of in an awkward position. I tell you what we are going to do. Let's first do the cave, add the cobble generator, see how that looks. Once that is done, let's check on the mine entrance, see what can be done in here. Maybe we can extract supplies from the mine into the quarry or something. And after all of that, I guess just spend an hour or two doing random stuff around. That's usually my plan when I'm stuck. Try random things, and just see what clicks and what doesn't.
Sometime later.
I have done some solid progress, I think so anyway. I have been doing some digging for the main chamber, while trying to not break through the walls. There are some corners that we can still expand on, but all in all it's looking alright. The cave has a decent size. But I didn't brought you all here just for that. I've finished with the cobble generator, which is looking good. Maybe slightly big for the size of the cave, but overall fine. I have also been trying out a few things on the walls, mostly the texturing for now. But I think I'm ready to continue, now that I can envision the cave and the shape of it. I have a really solid plan in my head on how we should move forward. This is a bit what I meant with just trying things, if you feel like you are stuck. Try to do the general shapes, or test out placing few different colored blocks. Sometimes that's enough to draw an inspiration, and I have found mine, so let's get to building this thing. Editor Batsy, cue the time-lapse.
Many hours later.
I ended up changing a few of the main details and structures. But to understand those changes, we need to take a look at the replay mod again. This is the original build, which I still think it looks nice. One of my favorite things is these andesite railings. They are an amazing detail, even if you aren't using the catwalks. Which, speaking of, the catwalks aren't all too bad either. The model is pretty nifty, even though I wish we could put them at the bottom of a block too. Anyway, if I love all of this so much, why changing it? Well, I love the concept of these blocks. It's just that they don't really work that well when using many of them. Looking at it from this angle, the texture is pretty good. It gives the impression that it's a metal, which is the intention, and the top part of the railing is made off wood, which I think looks really good. The problem comes with the texture, and I'm not sure if the issue itself is the fact that all of those details are too thin from the model perspective, that it doesn't allow to get detailed on the texture side. The easiest way to show you what I mean is with the supports. You all can see here the andesite supports I used to hold the catwalk in place. And it's the same as before. The texture isn't too bad, the model isn't too bad. The problem is that it just blends too much. It's really hard to tell what's going on in this pixel mess because all of these supports are meshing together in this big blob of gray. If we look at one single support in isolation, it looks pretty good, but that's kinda the issue. These blocks blend too much with the background. They blend too much with themselves. And everywhere you look, it's just a messy blob of gray that you can sort of guess what it is, but still doesn't make it any good. And I also thought, well, maybe I will use a different catwalk. Maybe I can use the brass one or the red copper. That should give enough contrast to not blend with the background. I tried, and the problem with the background was better, for sure, but it was still not good enough. When you add many of these together, it just doesn't work. Compare this andesite railing, how it has blended together and lost all its detail because we are looking at it from a very tight angle. With the same angle on a cobblestone wall, and how not only we can still tell it's cobblestone, but we can also see the outline of most of these rocks. Alrighty, that was maybe a longer explanation than it had to be, but I'm very passionate about these things and about finding the right balance of blocks and colors in a build. Let's head back to the server and see what changes I made to fix this problem. The most obvious first change is the catwalks for the good old spruce. I combined some trapdoors with flat supports to create this sort of platform, bridge thingy. That's probably the technical term for it. Instead of making the columns we had before to support it in place, and mostly because I felt like it was a bit obnoxious and making the area feel a bit claustrophobic, I just added some chains on the sides, hanging from the ceiling with this cool anvil detail, and connected to the side of the bridge thingy with a combination of shafts, metal brackets, and a small metal slab. I think it looks a lot more clean. The contrast of the wood is obviously a lot stronger, but also the fact that it's solid makes it pop out even from far away, instead of weirdly meshing with the rest of things. Chains don't have the biggest contrast compared with the walls, but they look really nice. The details are good. And you can still tell they are chains regardless of what angle you look at it. I honestly think that this is looking easily 10 times better than it was. The concept of those catwalks is good, but there's something about the models or the textures that just doesn't work. I think the fact that they are see-through and the models too thin, it just doesn't work for them. I did added a little brass stair for the cobble generator, and I honestly think this looks so much better. Not because it's brass per se, but the fact that the background is darker and, most importantly, that it's immediately behind the stairs. I think that alone is preventing the see-through nature of the model to mess it up. And that's the moral of this story. Never complain about the block if the issue is that we used them the wrong way. I also went ahead and added few more details to it. We have this cool looking cover for the cobble generator. Since we don't have the railings on the bridge anymore, there is a high risk of falling into lava. So I covered the lava with industrial iron to make it a little bit less bright, and replaced the middle stone bricks with magma blocks because I thought that was cool looking. Everything is covered in glass, so there is no risk of getting hurt in here. Or so I would like to say, but for some reason you still get hurt through the glass, so that's that. Also added a jungle frame around the generator because, well, that's one of those things that just makes it look more complete, to be honest. I have no other explanation for it. As for the cobble generator, I haven't really done a whole lot for it. I brought some power from the steam engine we did a couple episodes ago. It doesn't look pretty, but I basically made a shaft snake through the island until I reached the steam engine over there. It should work well enough, so I'm not too worried. All it's doing basically is to power up this belt, which doesn't even consume any stress units, and the rest of the cobble generator doesn't need rotation either. So that's that. I also added this barrel for now, which should be able to hold maybe 1,000,000 stone or something. I have no idea how much, but probably a lot. The rest is just the cobble generator itself. I will leave a link in the description to my video covering it, in case any of you want a similar setup. It's honestly pretty good. It produces a lot of cobblestone and barely causes any lag. I guess we could quickly go over it. There is a lever to turn it on which immediately powers the circuit. This is basically interrupting the portable unit at certain intervals. Basically some redstone magic to synchronize the whole machine. Then we have an extender underneath with a 10-tick duration to make sure the signal forward is constant, which is powering the little track where the cart goes back and forth. On the side there is this fast repeating circuit to make sure the funnel works at the highest rate possible, which is also some redstone magic. The combination of all of that wizardry is to ensure that the cart is mining the stone as soon as it appears, and the cycle is perfectly timed with the spawn timings. That's basically the TLDR. The only thing that causes lag from this entire machine is this segment over here that is constantly ticking the funnel, which doesn't cause a whole lot anyway. Well, there is also the fact that stone is constantly being broken, so if you have a mod that changes the visual physics of Minecraft, then sure, it might ruin your FPS. But that's what happens when you break tons of blocks with those kinds of mods. Anyway, there is also this nether portal at the back, which I almost forgot about. The idea was that if I had time, I wanted to set up a drill to mine netherite, but I'm afraid that will have to wait. It's already Friday and the exterior isn't even done yet. Unlike the last part of this little mine, which is fully done. Well, kind of. I might add some machines in this corner in case we need to convert cobble into something else. I'm not sure if we're gonna need anything, or we could just build some supplies to make it look cool. But look at these stairs though. Those really do look cool, don't they? I just liked the catwalk stair thingy, so I tweaked around the copycats until I found this nice combination. The metal parts are copycat beams, which they get placed in the middle of the block. Obviously, can either be vertical or horizontal in this case. To make sure it wasn't looking too empty between the beams, I added a mechanical bearing underground with a bunch of slabs with spruce texture, then turned it 45 degrees with the setting that it doesn't become blocks again unless the anchor breaks, so it gives this really cool effect for the ramp, with some nice support beams underneath for added coolness. Does it look slightly cursed? Maybe so, but it does look super amazing, doesn't it? I think you can make diagonals in Minecraft look good so long as it keeps feeling blocky, as the game should be. It's on an angle, but it still looks like a bunch of slabs, and I love it. Last but not least, we have this tiny elevator. I was going to make it a bubble elevator because there was no room for a proper create elevator. Then I thought, nah, I should try harder. I can probably just make a tiny one. And here we have it, a 1x3 elevator with a tiny seat and no room for your legs. We are currently at Y level 58. I have set the stop at Y level 0 and another one at -58. In case we want to go mine stuff that spawns higher up at the stone levels, or we want to go all the way down to get ourselves some redstone and stuff. And obviously, there is nothing going on in here. I just made a tiny box as a starting point. I do like how the stops look though. I love the detail with the observers. It is nothing at all, just thought the arrows give it a neat effect. But now that I'm looking at it, I could potentially wire it so it signals what direction the elevator is currently moving. That could be really cool. But one side is reading the block that also affects the redstone contact. That would be tricky to do. Well, anyway, future 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 will deal with that, probably. But yeah, this is it for the cave. It actually took me a couple of days to do all of this and, well, change half of what I did and almost start over. It surprised me how long this project took me to make. Not only that, but the exterior, it's not even done yet. And I thought I would even have the time to make a tunnel bore. Silly 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬. But that's enough whining. I have a few hours left and most of the editing is done. It's time to power through it and make an empty quarry that is looking like this into a masterpiece that looks like this.
So take a breath and make the moment last. You'll never know if you never ask. All you need will be within your grasp. I've got the dreamer in me. And when we reach the destination, you will see the world is waiting for the ones who hold the key. Just look inside and unlock the possibility. The dreamer lives in you and me.
Well, that was pretty epic, wasn't it? Next episode, we will have to finish the details that we started today. I ended up spending too much time with the ramp and the crane. We barely had any time for anything else. We will also be making a new tunnel bore to get ourselves some netherite. I have some interesting ideas in mind for that. I will also leave on screen the options that we have for the next project. Do make sure to vote in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.